Hello everyone, I am Shweta and welcome to my channel Analytics by Shweta. In today's video, we would be looking at the time to date functions in Power BI. There are three time to date functions in Power BI. They are the year to date, the quarter to date, and the month to date. Now each of these has two variants. For example, year to date has two variants functions like DatesYTD and TotalYTD. And similarly for quarter to date and month to date. We would be looking at examples of both these types of functions, how do they work and how do they differ. So let's head to Power BI to see it in action. Let's have a look at our data model. We have four-dimensional tables connected to a fact table, the hires data. The hires data is the data of newly hired employees in our organization. Now the calendar table has a date column and the hires data has a DOJ column. Now both of these columns are connected in a one-to-many relationship. The DOJ is the hiring date of the employee. So let's head to our main report and look at the various functions in action. We have a pre-created measure called as total hires. This measure counts the hires in our data set. Now, as each and every employee has a unique employee code, this measure would give us a distinct count of the employees. We would be first looking at examples of DatesYTD and TotalYTD. Let us create a measure for the same. We would write hires DatesYTD. We would use calculate. We would use the total hires measure which we have created, and then we would use the DatesYTD function, and in this we would be giving it the calendar date column, and we approve this measure. Let us also create a measure for TotalYTD. So we name it as hires TotalYTD. Here we do not use calculate, so we would be using the TotalYTD function directly. We would be giving the expression which is the total hires, and then we would be giving the calendar date. So if you see, the difference between both these functions and how we write them is in DatesYTD we had written calculate, we had given the expression, and then we gave the calendar date column. Whereas in TotalYTD we would be giving the expression first followed by the calendar date column. Let us approve this measure. Let us create a matrix visual. On the rows, let us add the year. Below the year, let us add the month. And then we would add all these three measures, the total hires, the hires YTD, dates YTD, and the hires total YTD. So I'm adding the total hires measure first, then I'm adding the hires dates YTD measure, and then I'm adding the hires total YTD. Let us expand this visual. So I expanded the visual. And now look at it. The total hires is the individual hires of the various months. But if you look at hires dates YTD, it starts with 242 in January and then it goes to 526. This 526 is the sum of January and February. Then in March we get 680, which is the sum of Jan, Feb and March, and it continues all the way up to December, where it keeps on continues to cumulatively add the hires and we reach the final total as 5175. So if you see here, it starts with 242, then it adds February, then it adds March, then it adds April, and this continues. If you also look at hires total YTD, it also is returning the same values where we are getting the cumulative up to the end of December. and once it reaches December, it resets and starts with January for the next months. So that is what YTD means. It says go year to date, and then once it reaches the year end, reset it and start the cumulative addition once again. So this is looking same. So what is the difference between both of these? Now DatesYTD returns a column of dates, whereas TotalYTD returns a scalar value. Now, a column of dates can be a single cell also. So, a single value of a single row and a single column is also a column of dates. So, in a way, we are getting the same value over and over again. Let's look at another feature of both of these functions. Now, this example looks purely at a data from a calendar point of view, that is Jan to December. What if your financial year does not start in January, it starts in some other month? So we can add an optional parameter in this function to make that possible. We would go to our measure. So let's first go to DatesYTD. And here, once we write the calendar date option, we can write the month where our financial year ends. So suppose our financial year ends in March. So I have written 0331, that is 31st of March. We would do the same for TotalYTD. Here after the calendar date, we would write 0331 and we close it. So now if you see, it is cumulatively adding till March, and once March reaches, in April it is resetting. So if you see in April, we have not added March and April value. It is starting fresh with the value of April, and it continues all the way till we reach March once again. And then we reset the calculation and then start the new calculation from April. As we have mentioned, our financial year ends in March, so it will cumulatively add up to March. And once April starts, it will reset and we will start with a fresh value. The other example is that we can give filters in our measure. So in this measure, we can give an additional filter. So let's do that. Let us add a filter. We would write the filter as department is equal to, and we approve this measure. Let us also do the same for DatesYTD. We will give department is equal to sales. Now this measure has completely changed the answer which we are getting. Now we see the cumulative addition up to March only for department sales. Now another difference between TotalYTD and DatesYTD is that in the filter which we have specified, in TotalYTD we can give only one filter. But in DatesYTD, we can give multiple filters as we are using calculate. So in DatesYTD, here we can specify one more filter like level is equal to mid-level. So in DatesYTD, now we are looking at three options. One is the financial year ends on 31st of March, the department is sales, and the level is mid-level. And we approve this. So now if you see, DatesYTD answer is different because here we have an additional parameter. In TotalYTD, we just have one parameter which is department is equal to sales. We cannot give more than one option over here as this measure allows only for one filter. So I hope you understood how DatesYTD and TotalYTD works and how do they also differ. We would be now looking at DatesQTD and TotalQTD. Let us create a new measure for QTD. We would write hires DatesQTD, we would use the calculate, we would use our total hires measure, and then use the DatesQTD. Once again, we would give the calendar date option and we close this. Let us create one more measure for TotalQTD. So let's name it hires TotalQTD. We would write TotalQTD. We would use the total hires measure, and once again we would use the calendar date. So we will look at both these measures again. This is the hires DatesQTD and this is the measure for hires for TotalQTD. Let us create a matrix visual. Let us add the year. Let us add the quarter number under it. Let us add the month under it. And we would add all three measures. That is the total hires, the hires QTD, and the hires total QTD. We have got all these three measures. Let us expand our visual and look at it. Now if you look at it from a quarter perspective, all these three values are the same. So every month, everywhere we see, everything is the same. To understand how QTD works, we need to expand the individual quarters. So now I expanded these quarters. If you see, January starts with 242. And we get 242 across, but the next month February says 526, that is, it is cumulatively adding both these months, and March shows 680, which is cumulatively adding all the 3 months. So all the 3 months from a quarter perspective are being cumulatively added. When it reaches the next month of the starting of the next quarter, it resets and once again starts cumulatively adding. So DatesQTD and TotalQTD will cumulatively add across the months for a particular quarter, and once they reach the end, it will reset, and then when the next quarter starts, it will start with the fresh value and once again cumulatively add for the next 3 months. So this works in a QTD function. So the options are the same. You can give only one filter in TotalQTD, but you can give more than one filter in DatesQTD. We have seen examples of how to give a filter of department and level in our previous examples of YTD. So you can practice that. We would be next looking at DatesMTD and TotalMTD. Let us start by creating the two measures. So we would name it as hires DatesMTD. We would be using the calculate. We would use total hires. We would use the DatesMTD, and here we would be giving it the calendar date column, and we approve this measure. Let us also create a measure for TotalMTD. So we name it as hires TotalMTD. We use TotalMTD function. We now give the expression, which is total hires, and once again give the calendar date column, and we approve this measure. Let us create a matrix visual. Let us add the year on the rows. Let us add also the month on the rows, and since we are looking at months to date, we also need to add the day. So I'll explain to you what does it mean. And in our values, we will add the three measures, which is the total hires, the hires DatesMTD, and the hires TotalMTD. So what we have done in this matrix visual is we have added the year, the month, and the day on the rows, And for the values, we have given our three measures, which is total hires, hires dates MTD, and hires total MTD. Let us expand this visual. So we are expanding the visual. Now we are looking at it from a month perspective. So if you look at it from a month's perspective, all the values look exactly the same. To get a better understanding of DatesMTD, we need to expand the visual. So I am expanding January. If you see, January starts with 26 and we get 26 across. But for February, we get 32 in DatesMTD and TotalMTD. That is, it is adding the value of the previous two dates. The next value shows us 42 over here, which is adding up the value of the previous 3 dates. So it is cumulatively adding the days. So it continues to add the days until it reaches the end of the month. Once it reaches the end of the month, it will reset and start calculating once again fresh from the start of the next month. So this is what is meant by month to date. That is, it cumulatively adds all the days for the month, and once it reaches the end of the month, it will reset and calculate newly from the start of the next month. The options are similar over here, where you have two filters in DatesMTD, whereas in TotalMTD you have only one filter. You remember in our DatesYTD example, we had seen how to use filters. You can practice it and see how does it work. So this is how DatesMTD and TotalMTD works. To recap, DatesYTD, DatesQTD, and DatesMTD returns a column of dates and you have multiple filter conditions. But TotalYTD, TotalQTD, and TotalMTD, it returns only a scalar value and we have only one filter conditions as there is no calculate used over here. Now, all of these 6 functions have an optional parameter at the end to specify the end of the financial period. If you do not use this optional parameter, it will take the year as the calendar year, that is January to December. But in case you have a financial year, April to March, you need to use this optional parameter at the end of these functions to specify to the measure that my financial year starts at a different month and it is not January. So this optional parameter will help you do that. I hope you understood all these 6 functions. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for more updates. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.